One inevitable byproduct of giving the world full, anonymous internet access is that some people will just let go of all inhibition. Because their choices can now be privileged, hidden behind a screen, it gives them the chance to tap into the most restricted, deranged parts of their minds, without the risk of compromising their integrity or embarrassing themselves. Throughout the 2000s, there was one prominent website that really channeled this behavior and opened the floodgates to some unforgettable, baffling exercises in people's curiosity. Yahoo Answers. It was in 2005 when Yahoo decided to further extend their brand into other sectors of the digital space. They already succeeded with web indexing, shopping, and chat rooms, so why not also become the hub for Q&A style forums? You can now get answers to very esoteric questions, to questions that have never been answered before, and questions no one knew even could or should be answered. Here are some of my favorites that I've come across. If you die in Canada, do you die in real life? Do you think humans will ever walk on the sun? Well, if they do, it would have to be at night. What is the phobia of chainsaws called? Common sense. I like that one. How is babby formed? How girl get pregnant? Whatever your question was, you were sure to find it on Yahoo Answers, even if the authority on the matter was less than qualified. Yeah, while it certainly stood out as both a novelty and somewhat useful tool for centralized fact-checking when it first launched, Yahoo Answers quickly became the blind leading the blind, and it would soon lose its firm grasp on the internet, eventually shutting down entirely in 2021. Oddly enough, Yahoo even erased all of the archives of its forum following its dissolution, making many of these amazing questions now lost to time. It's easy to attribute the site's failure to just bad quality submissions, but that was only part of it. After all, there are similar sites that often attract the same type of content that are still going strong. So what exactly killed it? Unlike many of its competitors, how did Yahoo Answers go from being the top of its niche to being erased from online existence?
But first, I want to tell you a little scary story. With the internet being all around us, in a form that we can't hear, see, or touch, there's no way of truly knowing where anybody is. Which brings me to the old legend of the cyber ghost. So it's okay, I'm gonna get through this. Okay. There are eyes on you at all times. You're being watched. ISPs, school institutions, the evil eye. They can see what you're doing. And the cyber ghost consists of over 38 million users worldwide and over 20,000 excellent reviews according to Trustpilot.com that can hide their identities and location through a virtual private network. They can select one of over 100 locations and reroute all their traffic through it, obscuring where they are and encrypting everything they do online. Whew. There's just no way of knowing. So it looks like they're right here, but they're actually right here. It was just the aircon. It's hot here. Cyber ghosts can use this power to access geo-restricted content like video games, Netflix, Amazon, or even secure better online deals that are location dependent. The most telling part? Anyone can become a cyber ghost. Oh my god, I think I'm becoming one right now. Oh, never mind. You have to sign up first. That was just me. By visiting the link on the screen, you can sign up for CyberGhost VPN at just $2 a month, plus 4 months completely free. There's even a 45-day money-back guarantee. CyberGhost VPN. Sounds like the thrill of a lifetime, if you ask me.
Like with most of these things, there wasn't just one cause to Yahoo Answers' demise. It was multifaceted, gradual, and in many ways, even inevitable. It really boils down to 3 things: user needs changing over time, Yahoo's indifference to maintaining the quality of the site, and the eventual decline of Yahoo as a whole, which lowered its exposure. In order to understand user needs, we need to look at the historical context for why Yahoo Answers was able to flourish rather quickly at the time of its launch. Its structure seems very primitive now, but keep in mind that in the early 2000s, the internet was rapidly growing, but it was still in its Wild West stage. Although that's a bit of a platitude when discussing the early internet, it really does capture just how unpredictable and unorganized things were at this time. There was an abundance of information, but not the best means of obtaining it, particularly when it came to niche questions. While search engines like Webcrawler, Ask Jeeves, and eventually Google did a decent job at combating this problem, it was not as direct or personable as it could have been. Yeah, search engines were great for getting information to basic queries such as what is the capital of Turkey or how many minutes are in a day, but for very specific questions like answers to math problems on your homework or advice about a situation that you're personally experiencing, looking for help needed to be a lot more direct, more one-on-one with another person. Sure, you had chat rooms, but these were a lot more closed off and unpredictable. People have a million reasons for joining a chat room that go beyond just asking or trying to answer people's questions. It was a time and place issue. These were the type of questions that needed to be asked on a forum. Now, of course, these already existed, and there were plenty of them, but forums at the time, just like how they still are now, were very niche dependent. If you have a problem with your car, you go to the auto mechanics forum. If you're looking for relationship advice, you need to join the dating forum, and so on. Things could get scattered out pretty quickly. What if someone were to create what was essentially the forum of all forums? A place where you could ask anything on any subject. A place where there was no such thing as a stupid question. Now, a common thing that is taught in business class is that making your target audience everyone, rather than appealing to a very specific demographic, is incredibly risky. It is in a category known as high risk, high reward, meaning it could either become a total disaster or a game changer. But when you're already a very huge company, such as Yahoo, it suddenly becomes much easier to take this business approach. After all, Yahoo in the early 2000s was everywhere, and at this point, they were already providing all kinds of different services and were successful at it. Why would adding another thing onto it cause any problems? So in 2001, they introduced a new community which they called Ask Yahoo, likely playing off the whole Ask Jeeves approach of personifying technology in a friendly demeanor. It also emphasized more of the Yahoo brand and all the flexible things you could do with it. In addition to finding all your websites with Yahoo, shopping with Yahoo, and chatting with Yahoo, it is only natural that you can now ask Yahoo. As you could imagine, this was an early, essentially beta version of Yahoo Answers. But the differences between the two really showcase how they essentially had their own problems on opposite sides of the spectrum. Ask Yahoo operated kind of like how its web indexing operated. If you've seen my video on the history of Yahoo, you may remember that Yahoo, as it got popular, would index its web pages from submissions that users would make. Yahoo staff would look at these submissions and choose the ones that were the highest quality. Ask Yahoo took a very similar approach. Website staff would choose the best questions among the submissions, carefully research them, and answer them on their page. This was great because it not only incentivized people to submit their questions so that they can be noticed, but it made sure that the answers were high quality. But as you could have guessed, having this centralized setup of handpicking questions was a big bottleneck. Due to the popularity of Yahoo, people are going to submit a million questions, and so site staff is only going to be able to properly research and answer a handful of them. It would just take too much time. From the very start, Ask Yahoo's demand was quickly exceeding what it could deliver, and so they needed a better system. So in December of 2005, their beta program, Yahoo Answers, is released. This is essentially a much more interactive and less one-sided version of Ask Yahoo. Rather than just asking questions, you can also answer them. To maintain the quality of the answers, users could upvote the ones that they considered to be the best, which would push that answer to the top, and, with enough votes, even label it as the best answer, or whichever answer was chosen by the person who asked the question. To incentivize activity and to curb spam, the site also implemented a point system. The more questions you answered, the more points you got. If you earned the best answer badge on a post, you got an extra 10 points. These points didn't do anything other than give people bragging rights. However, the number of points your account had would limit how many questions and answers you could post in a day. The more points you had, the more you could post, and the more credible you would appear. This idea was inspired by the Naver Corporation's already existing community called Knowledge IN, which had a very similar system. But Yahoo would be the one to really popularize it just because of the clout they already had. Additionally, you would also get recommended other questions that are related to the topic, which you could then explore and discover. Yahoo Answers was a much more fitting name for this iteration, as you were no longer just asking Yahoo, you were now answering as Yahoo, as one large community. With it still being in beta, the two knowledge markets coexisted comfortably until the summer of 2007, where Ask Yahoo was shelved and Yahoo Answers officially took over full-time. The site very quickly blew up, its reach even extending beyond the screen and into mainstream mass media. In fact, along with YouTube, it was one of the first social media platforms to be hugely involved in a US presidential election, with John McCain, Hillary Clinton, and President Obama answering questions on there during the 2008 campaign. The site would peak at 96% of the knowledge market in 2010. Any question you had about anything, you could find it on Yahoo Answers. I did my fair share of starting my homework 1 hour before class and finding all the questions on Yahoo Answers. Don't act better than me. This is definitely a shared experience for people among my generation. In many respects, Yahoo Answers was the first of its kind. It took the traditional forum format, but made it more broad and encouraged activity, a structure that many other websites would develop shortly after. It did all of that through this special system that added individuality, effectively eliminated spam, and only provided high-quality answers. Or did it? As it turns out, the very thing that made Yahoo Answers succeed would ultimately lead to its demise. People's needs changing with the internet. In fact, these problems appeared almost immediately after the site's launch. Things just didn't start tumbling down until later. This point system was a great way to get people onto the site at the time, as it catered to their desire to feel special and feel like an expert to the entire world, something a lot of them may not have experienced in their personal lives. In addition to racking up points and best answer badges, users could further add to their reputation by creating a distinct online persona through the Yahoo Avatar Maker. You could change your hair color, add accessories, all kinds of things that would help make it unique to you. These were all very effective ways to get people returning to the platform and to feel a sense of worth and finally have the chance to contribute their unique knowledge without feeling out of place. But there were glaring problems with this setup. While this point system was implemented to increase the rate of returning users and fight spam, points were not rewarded based on the quality of the answer. Yes, you got more points if an answer you submitted was given a best answer badge, but points were still automatically awarded to users for making any submission. So now you had people answering questions not because they actually knew the answer, but because they just wanted to get the points. To add insult to injury, you know who else was frequenting this website? Children. Many of them were answering questions that they had no business answering, and their lack of online etiquette and computer literacy would pop out from the screen. This is a big reason why Yahoo Answers ended up becoming a hub for such weird content. And as people took note of this, the issue only snowballed, as you now had people posting things ironically. These circumstances just led to the site having very unhelpful stuff, like, "I don't know," or "I'm not helping you cheat on your homework." Sometimes they would just write complete nonsense, like, "I like pizza," pretending to cover yourself in Vaseline and pretending to be a slug. Huh? Now you might be thinking to yourself, how is this system combating spam? That is spam. Well, the whole idea behind this point system was that it was measuring a user's reputation and post history. Spam accounts, especially back in the 2000s, were almost always brand new users that had no prior history. And this makes sense. After all, spammers typically create a bunch of accounts at once, which they fire off as quickly as possible. If a user with no post history or points was just posting fake URLs and advertisements, people could very quickly write them off as just spam accounts. But when a reputable user is doing the spam, it's a lot harder to unpack. Yahoo Answers would also penalize accounts if they weren't active enough. It was almost like one of those digital pets where you have to feed it and take care of it or else it'll die. But this time it's a website that deletes your contribution badge if you don't pay enough attention to it. This ended up creating a system that prioritized participation over high-quality answers. Now, there was a moderation system where Yahoo staff could take down low-quality posts, but they just didn't do a very good job with it, as reporting was also motivated by the point system. For example, if a Yahoo Answer post was violating community guidelines, Yahoo staff would really only consider it for a serious review if enough accounts with reputable histories reported it. Otherwise, it was often just dismissed as a false positive or even an act of spam. Moreover, if a reported user made an appeal and ended up winning, the person who reported them would then get penalized. This whole arrangement instead just instilled fear into people to not really conduct any moderation over the small chance that they may lose their precious points or badges. This was a moderation system that was put in rather quickly back in 2007, as the onslaught of trolls and spammers was already rampant even then. Despite this insanity, Yahoo Answers' popularity persisted, because it was kind of the only one of its kind at the time. It was fulfilling the needs of its contemporaries. But as other websites like Facebook, Reddit, and even Quora started to emerge, Yahoo Answers' age was starting to show. These websites had communities with very similar structures to Yahoo Answers, but with much more decentralized moderation, which emphasized quality content rather than just participation. It basically combined the best parts of both Ask Yahoo and Yahoo Answers. Particularly Reddit even still has the Reddit Karma system today, which is very reminiscent of the Yahoo Points system. It was then that Yahoo Answers was starting to go at a decline, and this would only be exacerbated by Yahoo's lack of care for maintaining it. Since less people were going on Yahoo Answers, Yahoo didn't feel the need to really make it better. Whether this was due to feelings of resignation or just marketing myopia, the site more or less remained stagnant. When they finally did do a rebrand, rather than updating its liveliness and personality, it just stripped it away. In fact, they even took away the point system, which was a huge reason for why people were on it. Many people attribute this decision to being the kiss of death for Yahoo Answers. It was now just a less exciting, minimalist version of its former self, but with all the same problems present. In many ways, they even got worse, as you ended up having loaded questions and even conspiracy theories and dangerous misinformation all on the front page. Since less people were using Yahoo, that meant less people were on Yahoo Answers. With less traffic on Yahoo Answers, this lowered the site's priority in search results. So things only got worse. Within a few years, Yahoo Answers was pretty much a dead website. It was still operational, but as a ghost town. But then in 2021, their parent company Verizon officially closed the doors on Yahoo Answers, and the site was now history. But weirdly enough, the site is still quite popular in Japan. In fact, Yahoo altogether is still very huge in Japan. There's a lot of reasons for why, and I would love to cover it in its own separate video. But nonetheless, many otherwise inactive users actually tuned in to watch the shutdown happen in real time, to reminisce the end of an online era. When we look at these sites' successors and all the things they are incorporating, like AI and better search engine optimization, it makes me wonder how Yahoo Answers would have done things differently if it was still around. Would they? Or would they have just stayed the same? I think Quora is definitely the closest answer to that question, and it's these exact changes that made it survive while Yahoo Answers didn't. But it certainly still exhibits that lack of cohesive thought and adult supervision, which for the longest time kept Yahoo Answers alive. I guess what I'm saying is Yahoo Answers walked so that Quora could walk even slower. If you would like to learn more about the history of Yahoo as a company, you can find my video about that right here. A special thanks to my Patreon supporters. Check out patreon.com/nationsquid for ad-free video access and exclusive content. Buying me a cup of joe is always appreciated too. Don't forget to visit the link on the screen and below to get the CyberGhost VPN discount. Protect your data today for just $2 a month.